The assembly hall had always been loud, but that morning the noise carried a sharper edge, like static before a storm. Rows of students filled the seats, backpacks shoved under chairs, knees bouncing, whispers darting from one row to the next. Teachers stood along the walls with folded arms and tight smiles, pretending this was just another Monday, though everyone felt the difference pressing in the air. A new director. New rules, maybe. New limits. Or none at all. When the side doors opened and Dr. Renee Carter walked in, the sound dipped but didn't disappear. Conversations softened instead of stopping, eyes flicking over her with quick, measuring glances. She moved steadily down the aisle toward the stage, heels clicking with an unhurried rhythm that seemed almost deliberate. She was tall, composed, her dark hair pulled back neatly, her navy suit sharp without being flashy. She carried no folder, no notes in her hands, just a quiet confidence that unsettled people who were used to adults rushing or bracing themselves around students. She stepped up to the podium and waited. The microphone hummed faintly. Somewhere in the back, a chair scraped. A laugh popped, too loud, then died awkwardly when no one joined it. Dr. Carter didn't rush to fill the space. She let the silence stretch until it began to feel intentional, until students shifted and teachers straightened unconsciously. "Good morning," she said at last. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was clear. It carried without effort, like she trusted it to reach every corner. A few students mumbled a reply. Most didn't. "My name is Dr. Renee Carter," she continued. "As of today, I have the honor of serving as your new director." She paused again, scanning the room slowly, not hunting for approval, not avoiding anyone either. She met eyes without flinching, curious freshmen, skeptical juniors, bored seniors who had already decided she didn't matter because graduation was close. "I know change makes people uncomfortable," she said. "Especially when it arrives without asking permission." That earned a ripple of reaction, some smirks, a few raised eyebrows. She was reading them already. That alone irritated certain people. From the back row, Jake Hollister leaned forward, elbows on his knees, grin half-formed like he'd been waiting for this moment. He was used to being seen. Used to controlling the temperature of a room. Teachers knew his name for all the wrong reasons, but his jersey and his father's donations kept consequences light and lectures short. He laughed, sharp and open, cutting through the hall. "So this is it," he called out. "This is who they send." A wave of whispers surged. A teacher near the aisle stiffened, ready to intervene, but froze when Dr. Carter lifted one hand slightly, not to silence Jake, but to acknowledge him. She looked directly toward the sound of his voice. "I'm sorry," she said calmly. "Would you like to repeat that?" Jake straightened, emboldened. Attention flooded toward him, and he basked in it. "I'm just saying," he replied loudly, "this school's been around a long time. Feels kinda weird that suddenly they put someone like you in charge." The words landed heavy. A few students sucked in breaths. Others glanced at one another, gauging whether it was safe to laugh. A couple did, nervously. The laugh spread thin and uneven, like ice cracking. Dr. Carter didn't react the way many expected. She didn't frown. She didn't snap. She didn't even sigh. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, as if considering a question in a lecture hall. "Someone like me," she repeated. Jake shrugged, spreading his hands. "You know, new. Not from here. Different vibe. I mean, no offense." The phrase hung there, empty and unconvincing. Teachers exchanged looks. One stepped forward, mouth opening to shut it down. Dr. Carter raised her hand again, this time a little higher. The teacher stopped. "What do you mean by, not from here?" Dr. Carter asked. Jake hesitated for half a second, then pushed through it. Backing down wasn't his thing. "This place has a culture," he said. "Traditions. People who get it. Feels like the district's trying to make a statement or something." There it was. Cleaned up just enough to sound almost reasonable. Almost. Dr. Carter nodded slowly, absorbing his words as if they mattered. "Thank you for explaining," she said. "Honesty is important." That wasn't what Jake expected. A flicker of confusion crossed his face before he masked it with a grin. "So yeah," he added, pushing his luck. "I'm just wondering if you actually understand this school. Or if you're gonna try to change everything." The hall was silent now. Even the habitual phone checkers had stilled. Everyone waited for the moment to break, security stepping in, a sharp reprimand, a public shutdown that would either crown Jake a martyr or finally put him in his place. Dr. Carter rested both hands lightly on the podium. "I understand more than you think," she said. "But you're right about one thing." She paused, letting curiosity tighten the room. "Schools don't belong to buildings or reputations," she continued. "They belong to the people inside them. And people change. That's not a threat. That's reality. Jake scoffed softly, leaning back again, but there was less confidence in it now. Doctor. Carter's gaze remained steady on him. You spoke up today, she said. That takes courage, even when it's uncomfortable for others. The word courage made several students glance at Jake again, confused. Was she praising him? I'd like you to come see me after the assembly, she added. A few students murmured. Jake smirked, interpreting it as a summons he didn't fear. Detention. A warning. Another adult he could charm or dismiss. Sure, he said casually. Anytime, doctor. Carter inclined her head, as if sealing an agreement. Then she turned back to the rest of the students. As I was saying, she went on, voice smooth, unshaken, change doesn't ask for permission. But respect is not optional. You will hear more from me soon. She finished her introduction without raising her voice, without referencing Jake again, without needing to. The assembly ended in an odd quiet, no cheers, no chaos, just a subdued shuffle as students filed out, whispering more intensely now. Jake stood, laughing with his friends, already replaying the moment in his head, certain he'd won something. Teachers watched drive Carter as she stepped away from the podium, her expression unreadable. None of them noticed the way she paused at the edge of the stage, eyes thoughtful, as if she had just been handed exactly what she needed. By the time the final bell rang, rumors had already outrun the truth. Students poured into the corridors whispering that Jake was getting expelled, that the new director had called the police, that the district was furious. Others claimed nothing would happen at all, that Jake's last name would protect him the way it always had. The only certainty was the message sent over the intercom just before lunch. All students and staff are to report to the assembly hall immediately after 7th period. When the hall began to fill again, the mood was nothing like the morning. The noise was lower, tighter, threaded with anticipation. Teachers guided students into rows, faces tense. Even the usual troublemakers took their seats without being told. Something about being summoned twice in one day felt serious in a way detention never did. Jake arrived late, of course. He strolled down the aisle with his familiar swagger, tossing a grin at friends who looked less confident than he felt. He expected to see Drive Carter alone, maybe flanked by security, ready to make an example of him. Instead, he stopped short. The front row was occupied by adults he didn't recognize at first, men and women in professional suits, posture straight, expressions attentive. A banner bearing the district seal stood near the stage. A camera on a tripod blinked quietly in the corner. Jake's grin faltered, just slightly. Dr. Renee Carter stood beside a large screen, hands folded loosely in front of her. She looked exactly as she had that morning, composed, unhurried, entirely in control of the space. When the doors closed and the hall settled into silence, she stepped forward. Thank you for coming back so promptly, she said. I know unexpected assemblies can be disruptive. Her tone was courteous, almost gentle, which only sharpened the edge of what was coming. She glanced toward the front row. We have members of the district board with us today, as well as several guests. A murmur rippled through the students. Jake felt his stomach tighten, though he told himself it was nothing. His father knew people. He'd be fine. Earlier today, Drive Carter continued, a concern was raised publicly about my presence here. About whether I belong. She didn't look at Jake yet, but everyone else did. Heat crept up his neck. He crossed his arms, jaw set. I want to address that concern, she said, because it reflects something larger than one comment. She clicked the remote. The screen behind her lit up with a photograph of a much younger Drive Carter in a graduation cap and gown, smiling into bright sunlight. The name of an Ivy League university appeared beneath it. Then another image, her shaking hands with a governor. Another, standing at the entrance of a worn-down school, ribbon-cutting scissors in hand. A quiet spread through the room, the kind that came not from fear, but from attention. These are not achievements, Drive Carter said evenly. They are responsibilities I accepted. Graphs appeared next, declining suspension rates, rising test scores, graduation rates climbing year by year. Short headlines flashed. State Award for Educational Leadership. National recognition for school reform. Jake's arms loosened. His confidence thinned with every slide. The screen shifted again, this time to a video. Students appeared one by one, filmed in classrooms and hallways that looked both familiar and distant. They spoke about being written off, about teachers who had given up on them, about a director who had listened when no one else would. One girl wiped tears from her face as she talked about staying in school because someone finally believed she could. The hall was silent enough to hear breathing. When the video ended, Drive Carter turned toward the students at last. Her eyes found Jake, not accusing, not triumphant, simply direct. Mr. Hollister questioned whether I understand this school, she said. Whether I should be here. Jake swallowed. Hundreds of eyes pinned him in place. This wasn't detention. This wasn't a lecture. This was something else entirely. I won't pretend his words came from nowhere. Drive. Carter went on. They came from a culture that has allowed volume to substitute for value. Where confidence is mistaken for leadership, and comfort for belonging. She took a step closer to the edge of the stage. I will not punish honesty, she said. But I will challenge it. A beat passed. Mr. Hollister, she said calmly, please stand. Jake hesitated. His legs felt heavier than they ever had on a football field. Slowly, he rose. You are influential, drive. Carter continued. Students listen to you. They follow you. That influence can wound, or it can build. She let that settle. Starting next week, she said, you will serve as the student lead for our newly formed Respect and Accountability Council. A wave of gasps swept the hall. Jake's mouth fell open before he could stop it. You will work with faculty, students, and community members, drive. Carter said. You will listen to stories unlike your own. You will help design solutions for behavior, bias, and conflict in this school. Jake's pulse hammered. This wasn't a reward. It wasn't a punishment. It was exposure. If you treat this as a joke, she added quietly, you will fail. Publicly. If you take it seriously, you might learn what leadership actually costs. She turned back to the crowd. This school does not need silence enforced by fear, drive. Carter said. It needs respect built by responsibility. For a moment, no one moved. Then a student in the third row stood. She was small, usually invisible, but her hands came together in a firm clap. Another student rose. Then another. Applause filled the hall, not wild, not chaotic, but strong and deliberate. Teachers joined in. Even some of Jake's friends clapped, eyes wide. Jake sat down slowly as the sound washed over him. His smirk was gone. In its place was something unfamiliar, the awareness that power could be taken apart without ever being raised in anger. Doctor. Carter waited until the applause faded. We begin again tomorrow, she said simply. As students filed out, the noise returned, but it was different now. Quieter. Thoughtful. Behind them, drive. Renee Carter stood alone on the stage, unflinching. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't needed to.